Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. It has been a difficult week. I'm troubled by those who, instead of seeking to reconcile in the face of the violence, are seeking instead to blame and to divide. It seems to me that as a person of faith, that I am called to, even when I despair, to, as our reading just said in this letter talk, so much is mended, so much is broken and needs to be mended. And I think one of the tests of faith, the meaning of faith, is to do the work even when you're not sure it'll make a difference. To continue to do the work, to act on the side of love, to seek to be voices of reconciliation, acceptance, and hope, even when you may feel in despair. A wise person once said, I don't remember who, forgive my borrowing her words, we're not called to complete the work, but neither are we free to abandon it. Too much remains to be done. And one of the things I became aware of from talking with people after the first service is that people say, what's this results you're involved in? So very briefly, I started a results group in Fort Worth. Results has 100 groups all over the country. Since the early 80s, we've been working with members of Congress to come up with programs and policies that will reduce the number of children who die before the age of 5 in preventable diseases. Since 1990, that has been cut in half. So if you're interested in learning more about that and coming with us and influencing members of Congress, others, talk to me afterwards. I served First Jefferson Unitarian Universalist Church for many years, and one of the gifts of that church is Reverend, who's its choir director. Roy has an interesting history. He has a Master's of Divinity and a Master's of Sacred Music, SMU, but he didn't like, even though he got the big music director jobs at some of the largest Methodist churches around, the theology bothered him, and also the style of music that was becoming popular, the hootenanny stuff that was going on for a while. He likes the sacred choral tradition more. And so he implements that at First Jefferson, much to their delight. And he and his wife Sharon started a church organ company, Pipe Organs, and it's not very far from here, downtown. And they build church organs and install them all over the country. And if you're going to sell church organs, the churches expect you to come and sit in their service. But Roy has a problem with their creeds. He can't say their creeds in good conscience, neither could I. But people are going to look to see if he's moving his lips, right? And so he's come up with a perfect solution. It only requires changing one word, the first word. And so instead of saying we believe, he just says they believe. And you can say it all in good conscience. You will remember that next time you're faced with a challenge like that. We are free here, are we not, to follow our own spiritual path, to formulate our own theology or beliefs. Some of us describe ourselves as Christian, others as pagans, others as atheists, and many of us are reluctant to apply any label at all to ourselves. But yet, despite the diversity that does exist in this and other Unitarian Universalist congregations, there is a center to our faith. What is this center then? In 1995, a convocation of Unitarian Universalist ministers, something the ministers do every 7 years or so, asked this question of themselves and answered, the enduring center of our faith is a profound sense of the holy and a critical trust in the power of reason. Let me repeat it. The enduring center of our faith is a profound sense of the holy and a critical trust in the power of reason. I took the title of today's sermon, Fragments of Holiness, from my colleague Sarah York in one of the readings, also in the wrote, we receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts that they are. So what is this phenomenon we call the holy that the UUMA and Sarah York spoke of? Let me start by saying what I think it is not. It is not supernatural, miraculous events or occurrences. It is not a revelation that comes in the form of a burning bush or a ram caught in the thicket or a literal conversation with God. It is not any book, person, or institution, though we often ascribe holiness to such. Instead, holiness is something we sense at special moments in our lives. I sensed it when I witnessed the birth of a child. I worked on an advanced life support ambulance in Spokane, Washington for several years, and once had to help deliver a baby unexpectedly. I sensed it when I marveled at my newborn granddaughter's so tiny yet perfectly formed fingers and toes. I sensed it when I was 11 years of age, vacationing with my father and an older cousin on the northern shore of Lake Superior. The last day we were there, I remember standing on the beach. The sun was out, the lake was so blue, and just feeling this immense feeling, this sense of something special and profound, and identifying it for myself. This is what people mean when they talk about religion. This is what is at the center of it. I've sensed it as part of a congregation singing a moving hymn at a special moment. I've sensed it when I've been riding my bicycle. As one of my friends puts it, aren't we lucky we get to do this? I believe these fragments of holiness, these glimpses of eternity, these brief moments of insight are the living heart of religion. All our different faiths are but poor attempts. Well-meaning, well done, but still ultimately inadequate attempts to somehow capture and convey this common human experience. Experience that is ultimately unnameable, inexpressible, ineffable. Perhaps best said by the writer Lao Tse in the Tao Te Ching so long ago. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. Look and it can't be seen. Listen and it can't be heard. Reach and it can't be grasped. Approach it and there is no beginning. Follow it and there is no end. You can't know it, but you can be it or sense it at ease in your own life. Just realize where you come from. This is the essence of wisdom. Look and it can't be seen. Listen and it can't be heard. Reach and it can't be grasped. I believe this is because it is a gift. It comes to us unbidden and unexpected. It is not something that I can make happen, that we can make happen, that I believe you can make happen. It happens to us. I am moved. It can't be forced, but it is always present, whether I'm aware of it or not, whether you're aware of it or not. Some years ago, Annie Dillard wrote a book called Pilgrims at Tinker Creek, and there's a part in there where I think she experienced the holy and expressed it quite eloquently. Then one day I was walking along Tinker Creek, thinking of nothing at all, and I saw the tree with the lights in it. I saw the backyard cedar where the mourning doves roost charged and transfigured, each cell buzzing with flame. I stood on the grass with lights in it. Grass that was holy fire, utterly focused and dreamed. It was less like seeing than being for the first time seen, knocked breathless by a powerful glance. The flood of fire abated. I'm still spending power. Gradually the lights went out in the cedar. The colors died, the cells unflamed and disappeared. I was still radiant. was lifted and struck. And Carl Jung's tomb is a phrase in Latin, vocatus aquae non vocatus Deu adori, which translates to summoned or not summoned, God will be present. In other words, the holy is present, whether one senses it or not. Most of the time we don't. We are too busy doing to notice being. In attempting to explain Schleiermacher's theology, which I'll get to in a moment, Otto Rank, another theologian of the 20th century, used the metaphor of a cathedral. And he says you can go into one of these beautiful cathedrals in France, let's say, and look at it in several different ways. And one way is to look and say, oh, how do they make that arch there? What's the engineering involved? That's where we're treating the cathedral as an object we work on. Another is to say, oh, look at the dust bunnies under the pew. Maybe I could clean that up. And the third is to just let the cathedral, its beauty, affect you, touch you, move you. He said that Schleiermacher was paying attention to that third way of perception. We are too busy doing to notice being. We compulsively treat the world as if it were just an object, something to be shaped, engineered for our ends. But sometimes, if we are lucky like Annie Diller, we might be struck like a bell by the beauty that all around us lies at every moment. In such grace-filled moments, the sheer wonder of existence, the vastness of eternity in which we are located, can take your breath. This is what the psalmist sang about, and what the Buddha experienced under the Bodhi tree. It is what inspired Jesus and Mohammed and the Druids of Northern Europe. Throughout human history, men and women have been moved, inspired by it. When we read ancient scripture, no matter whether it is Christian, Jewish, Hindu, or Muslim, let us not forget that it was inspired by an experience of the holy. Throughout human history, in every culture, in every time, human beings have tried to express their sense of it through story, poetry, art, music, and prose. Difficult though it may be to bridge the vast differences in time and culture that separate us from those ancient writers, it is worth the effort. The same experiences that inspired them so long ago are just as available to us today. We may use different metaphors. Of course we will use different metaphors or explanations. But the experience is the same. It can be tempting to assume that the miraculous and momentous events reported in our scripture aren't happening today, are somehow lost to us. But I submit to you, they are not. Mystery and wonder are as close as your hand. You need not travel to distant times or distant lands to experience the sacred. It is right here now. This is sacred time. This is sacred space. Open your ears and hear. Open your eyes and see. The ministers at the UU Ministers Association Convocation who stress the centrality of the sense of the holy also emphasize our trust in the power of reason. Although my personal faith emerges out of the sense of the holy, it has no need for the supernatural and allows it no room. This universe, this planet, and life itself, as has been revealed to us again and again by the extraordinary intellectual accomplishments of scientists, are so wondrous and amazing, they need no magical embellishments. We are part of a vast web of life located on a small and fragile planet. Our sun is but one of 100 billion suns in this galaxy. This galaxy is but one of 100 billion or more galaxies in the universe. To have a sense of the finite in the midst of the infinite is a religious experience. At the beginning of the 19th century, the German theologian Friedrich Schleiermacher ushered in the age of liberal religion. He really created a watershed in theological thought. He ushered in the age of liberal religion by placing the experience of the holy at the center of religion and claiming that it was equally available to everyone. If the experience of the holy is available to all, then he reasoned that priests and popes and other intermediaries are not needed. If anyone can experience the holy directly, if everyone can, what do we need an intermediary for? Why experience it secondhand? Take someone else's word for it when you can experience it yourself. Furthermore, by placing the experience of the holy first, he made all creeds and doctrines secondary. Schleiermacher stated that all the creeds, doctrines, and theology were simply our feeble attempts to explain the experience of the holy. He imagined a church whose members were united and excited by a common experience of the holy, instead of a common interpretation of the experience of the holy. He imagined a church whose clergy didn't claim they received special revelations that weren't available to all. I believe that we approximate that church that Schleiermacher imagined so long ago. What's important is one's experience of the divine, rather than how one characterizes that experience. The various faiths are simply different representations of the same experience. It is as if the holy is a territory, and all the different faiths are but simply different maps of the same place. But if you point a finger at the moon, what's important is not the finger, but the moon. What's important is not the map, but the territory it is trying to describe. It is this understanding of the relationship between the experience of the holy and attempts to explain it that is at the heart of our faith. It is this understanding, Schleiermacher's ground-shifting insight, that justifies us being so tolerant of other points of view, that justifies our refusal to adopt one interpretation. It is as if the experience of the holy is the sun that shines upon us all. We may explain the source of the light in many different ways, but we all experience the same light. This same light falls alike on laity and clergy. Everyone has equal access to it and to the experience of the holy. We don't need sacred books or people or institutions to intercede or mediate that. It is equally available to everyone, to you, to me. It doesn't matter if we interpret or express it in different ways. The experience, again, is what's important, not the interpretation of the experience. This reliance on the sense of the holy is, I believe, as the UU Ministers Association said, the enduring center of our faith. It allows us to come together despite our differences. Near the beginning of our hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition, is a statement of the purposes and principles of the Unitarian Universalist Association. The second part of that section begins, the living tradition we share draws from many sources. And it goes on to say the first source is direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit. Direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder. Mystery and wonder abound no less today than they did thousands of years ago. Even though we know now that the account of creation in Genesis is borrowed ancient myth, the origin of the universe 13.8 billion years ago is no less a wonder. What existed 14 billion years ago? How big is the universe? Though we now know we are not descended from the mythical Adam and Eve, the origin of life is still a mystery. Despite the great advances of modern medicine and science, we are still dependent on resources beyond our control. One of my favorite examples is the immune system. If it fails, all the king's horses and all the king's men can't keep you alive. Richard Fuchs lists a few: food which we plant but cannot grow, friends and loved ones we have not earned and cannot buy. For all things which come to us as gifts of being from sources beyond ourselves, gifts of life and love and friendship, we lift up our heart and thanks this day. Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. One of the joys of being invited to preach is you often are invited to choose the hymns. And so I got to choose my favorites. 309, Earth is Our Homeland, is a hymn that most congregations are not familiar with, yet is one of our gems. It's based on part of a symphony by Brahms. But there's a backstory to it which is fascinating. Mark Bellatini, who some years ago was the keynote speaker at Swansea, Merle McMahon was just reminding me, the Summer Institute that gathers in Oklahoma the last week of July. Perfect time to have a vacation in Oklahoma, right? Anyway, Mark came and spoke, and he told this story when he was the keynote speaker that year, so many years ago. And the night before the publishing deadline, the rights holder for the way this music is arranged said, no, you can't change any of the words in the lyrics. You can't change the lyrics at all. You know, we love to change lyrics. I think we changed the lyrics for the Christmas Carol so terribly that they're unsingable. But that's a different conversation anyway. So he, one co-chair, and Helen Pickett, the other co-chair. Helen Pickett is the wife of former UUA President Gene Pickett, had a late night phone call. She's on the East Coast, he's on the West Coast, and they wrote all four lyrics, all four verses of the lyrics. We are about to sing. And I think they're wonderful. So let us sing, Earth is Our Homeland.